I was in Montreal. I had just finished my art studies. I got really interested in the seed catalog as an opus in itself because I just thought, how are you going to make a living in the country? You don't know how to repair a tractor. I mean, you were not raised there. You don't have like what it takes to for survival. But I can make pictures and I can write.
Welcome to episode 26 of the Seed Farmer Podcast. I'm Dan Brisebois, seed grower at Tournesol Cooperative Farm, spreadsheet and crop planning enthusiast, and author of The Seed Farmer, a complete guide to growing, using, and selling your own seeds. The Seed Farmer Podcast is back. This is my first episode that is produced without no-till growers. What does that mean? Well, no-till growers used to take care of the editing and post-production and publishing the episode. They did a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff. And what was great about that is I could simply focus on lining up guests, doing research, and then having great seed conversations. Now, I'm having to take on most of that work, I guess, and costs to make this podcast happen. If you want to financially support this podcast to help it keep going on, you can head to spreadsheet.farm/podcast support or follow the link in the show notes. Other ways you can support this podcast is leaving a 5-star review everywhere you listen to podcasts. And even more valuable is telling folks about the show. You can share your favorite episodes with them and encourage them to binge the back catalog. So thank you for any kind of support that you give. I do appreciate the financial support, but I also really appreciate all the other types of support too. So thank you so much for listening. So this enters a new era of the Seed Farmer Podcast, and I hope you enjoy what is coming. Let's start today's episode. Patrice Fortier is this episode's guest. Patrice is the owner of La Société des Plantes, a farm-based seed company in Kamouraska, Quebec. On his website, Patrice describes La Société des Plantes as une agence de rencontre entre les plantes et les jardiniers, which roughly translates to a dating service for plants and gardeners. In this episode, Patrice shares his journey from city boy to seed farmer and how being an artist inspired his approach to farming and growing seed. Patrice and I talk about how he's rooted his business into a rural community with deep historical roots, his philosophy on growing with nature's rhythms, and whether you can really trust the seed longevity charts you find in reference documents. We finished by discussing growing biennials for seeds. Patrice talks about overwintering lettuce in the field in our Quebec winters, which really, really impresses me. And then he does a deep dive on growing carrots for seed. Please note that the episode was recorded in February. There are a few seasonal references where this matters in this conversation. I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome, Patrice, to the Seed Farmer Podcast.
I'm so happy to be here with you, not working really. We always see ourselves not having time to talk to each other. So here we are.
That's fantastic. It's nice to take a break sometimes to do this. Let's jump into what is your seed story? How did you discover seed and start this journey?
Yeah, well, yeah, that is a long path. And it started when, I mean, I'm a city boy and I didn't know I came from a farming family really. So, I mean, I realized that lately that I have a big link to my great grandparents. But I was an art student. We're in the 80s, okay? I'm 58 now. I'm about 17, 18, and I'm like trying to be a performer in New York City, and I live in Lower East Side. It's changed a lot in the 90s. So at that time, there were like lots of homeless people gardening everywhere. every corner. On my street, there were like three different gardens, like Puerto Rican immigrant gardens and homeless people with like cars made of, like houses made of car doors. And like there were gardens blended with art. So it's the first time I realized that gardens could be art. And at the same time, there was an organization, like an anarchist organization, giving workshops on like self-sufficiency, like food self-sufficiency. But me, I was working in bars, you know, I was like dancing and doing performance. I was like more like in a frivolous lifestyle. And, you know, I was young. I was just trying to understand who I was. And it was actually a lot of fun to
It
be
sounds
in,
like it.
yeah, in these years. And but I didn't know I was going to become a gardener, you know. But I was very touched because these gardens had some sort of poetic charge, like that. Like for me, the idea of paradise was there, like the fragility of the paradise. I mean, because these homeless people's garden could be moved or smashed in a day. I mean, this is behind my heart and brain, like somewhere, and I go through with my life as a student. And we don't have internet, you know, remember then we were reading magazines, and I was slowly my art path led me to working with plants and with shifting things, not just like things that are kept and to be put on walls. So I became a gardener through my artistic path and using photography and performance still and plants. And I was reading organic gardening magazine, and they were talking. That's where I heard about seeds. And we're in the 90s. I have a roommate. She has a seed catalog pile in the apartment, and I just go nuts on one of the seed catalog. It's this catalog. It was called Gardens North. It was a company from the Ottawa area. The woman who was like doing this, it was her name is Crystal Wallach, and Gardens North was a pioneer seed company in Canada. She sort of invented ways to sell some seeds that were not sold on the market before, like mainly like indigenous. Lots of there were perennial plants for the garden. So I got into gardening through gardens, not farming. That's important for me because that's still what I do, kind of. So reading her, like, why did Gardens North influence me so much? It's because when I was like at that time, you know, it's the Thatcher years, the 90s. It's all about money and limousines and stuff like that. The seed catalog, the big seed catalog has shiny color pictures, and it's very quantitative. Like they talk about the size of tomatoes and the diameters and the weight, and not so much qualitative and not so much cultural. You know, like, and the way she talked about plants were like it's as if she were talking about friends.
Hmm. I love
So
that. I love that so much.
yeah, and that has like uh, the funny thing is that Crystal and I are now friends. if I had known, if I had known then, because she was like a goddess to me. And I still have all my catalogs, like my mail catalogs. There were no pictures, just text. And so she introduced me to the concept of stratification. She was like selling the Norman Dino books, and she was talking about gibberellic acid and all about the germinate, all the fun we have in our seed testing. For me, my first notions came from her. So she was very influential. And at the same time, the numbers were out in the public in organic magazines and other magazines about the loss of seed heritage, seed genetics erosion. And I was to a point that I didn't see myself living very old if I went on with my lifestyle. And it was like the AIDS year, and I was in a 30s crisis, uh, kind of deciding if I want to be alive in the future and do things, construct a life. And I just decided to move to the country then. But it was a big shift. So and I decided to move far. I decided to move at that time. I decided to move to Kamouraska, but I didn't know anybody here. So don't
Because you were
ask
a
me
city
to
boy in
explain.
Montreal.
Yeah, I was in Montreal. I had just finished my art studies, and I was playing with fermentation in my art and lots of photography and like photographies in the garden. And I was really into the labeling. I got really interested in the seed catalog as an opus in itself because I just thought, how are you going to make a living in the country? You don't know how to repair a tractor. I mean, you were not raised there. You don't have like what it takes to for survival. But I can make pictures and I can write. So seed catalog for me, like it sells dreams, and there's a lot about seed catalogs that are like cultural for me. It's art. It can be art. So that was my process. That's how I started my La Société des Plantes was born, because it was like the union of my art practice and the very down to earth me wanting to go and make a living in the country. And hearing the numbers, okay, we've lost all this vegetable diversity, so somebody has to do something about it. We're not just going to cry about it. And at that time, there were not many seed catalogs in Quebec. And I saw like this and that I wanted to eat. And how come we don't have access to these seeds? So we needed to order from the States, from Europe. And before seed websites, I mean, the through catalog, it was kind of finicky and a long process to order seeds from abroad. So this is like how La Société du Plant was born, out of like just making sense with my life and trying to plug a hole of what is offering something that is useful. Because when you grow up as an artist, it's hard to believe that you are useful to society, because although we do believe as artists that we are useful, society doesn't often like show us that we are wanted. So it's kind of doing something like with the farming aspect that blended with art. A part of me felt satisfied to do something like good for everybody, and I felt better. So this is only the beginning, because I didn't know how to grow seeds yet.
So,
So
were you gardening at this point, though? Like,
yeah, yeah, and I started my first gardening company. I was living in the Myland in Montreal. We're in the 90s. I don't even drive a car. I put an ad in the Gazette newspaper with my roommate, Maria, and we just put an ad to make over gardens. And need help with your gardens? You think it's too shady, too small? No, no, no. We're going to do something great with it. And then I wanted to just convince my clients to take their lawn off and put like creeping thyme and mother of thyme instead, and trying to introduce useful plants. So my first love is like permaculture and like useful plants in landscaping. So what is big now, but at that time it was kind of hard to push that towards my clients. It was a little too early, and I was really bad at like marketing myself and like giving a good price, like pricing my work. And but I did everything on my bicycle.
wow,
Yeah.
wow.
So, and most of my clients were upper Outremont on the mountain, and I was starting from the Myland with my plants and shovels behind my bicycle. So I was pretty in good shape then.
I bet, I bet. So you moved to Kamouraska, and you've had this awakening about biodiversity, but then also the artistic and the storytelling nature of seeds. Um, and did you know you were going to start a seed company then when you did that?
It was either, yeah, I knew I wanted to grow seeds because it was a necessity, and it was one of the possibility. I could have had a snack bar in the middle of my potato field, making like I wanted to have a solar snack bar then, also like a solar powered snack bar in the middle of the garden. That was one of my ideas. I had like many ideas, but like Kamouraska is not just any far away place. It's the first farming school in Canada. in La Pocatière, which is like 20 minutes. So I went there knowing that it was a place of heritage, like farming heritage, and that there would be ears to listen to. Like I knew I could find some help there, and that my project people would think it makes sense. So it actually I had a really good response from La Financière Agricole, from the government farm. They really helped me out with my business plan, and I went to the farm school there for 1 year. When I arrived here, I went to farm school for a 1 year program as a technician. So learning how to grow vegetables. And so my teachers told me that we could not grow seeds in the area, that many people had tried in Quebec and in my area and like Eastern Quebec, and it didn't work. Like we could not grow good quality seeds. So that's what my teacher told me before they became my customers. Yeah.
A little foreshadowing where the story's going.
Yeah. So yeah, we're in 2001. Like it took me 3 years to actually find the farm. It's kind of hard. It was already hard back then to find a land to buy, and I was having trouble finding. I looked all over the eastern part of Quebec to the Gaspé Peninsula, and I could not find it. At last, this place that I'm living in right now was available, and it was like beyond my wildest dreams. It was worth the wait. It's actually all still beyond my dreams. It was like the most perfect place. It's amazing. So it has absolutely everything that I was looking for. But I didn't take advantage of all the possibilities until, well, we never do, but until recently, I didn't take advantage of the, the fact that it's in a place where there's tourism, you know? So that's like new in the seed story. Because for 20 years, I kind of learned the craft. I was a craftsman by myself with some summer employees, but you know how the winter work is important, but I was doing it by myself. So I was limited by me, you know, and I was a true bottleneck. There was a big bottleneck effect because all my working tools were made according to one person doing everything. So this is what happened for 20 years. But during these 20 years, we have learned, we were as part of the Eastern Organic Seed Growers Network that you shaped. I mean, when John Navazio came and gave us a workshop, I mean, I have like shivers when I think about that because first he was like just amazing, an amazing man, and like a friend, instant friend, and it was like very human, a very wonderful human gathering. But I just understood what I had been doing for all those years. Suddenly, it was like a light upon light fell. It's just I saw what I was doing. Okay, that's what I've been doing. That's what. Okay, that's
He added some theory to your practice.
yeah. So this gave me a lot of confidence, and in the way I taught like the young people who came to work with me, because all these years, you know, that's one of the hard things with our work is to I mean the our workers are shifting. Like not a lot of people stay for forever, so we have to teach all the time. And for 8 years, I only had woofers. I didn't have any employees, so people stayed for 2 weeks to 2 months. But so I taught a lot. So by teaching, you learn. But during that with EcoSign, with all the EcoSign Eastern Canada Seed Growers Network gatherings we've had always all these conferences. We've learned so much. That was very important. So that's definitely important in our seed story because 20 years later, like 4 years ago, like during the pandemic, when our seed sales went up, I used that as a leverage to do another business plan to make a real business where I'm not like not everything goes through Patrice and like you know bringing new tools to share the work and reach a new level, I would say, of quality in our seed work. So this is like the new story. So it started like that was like in 2020, 21, 22, and like the new employees, like my staff, start of permanent staff happened in 2022. So that's like 2 years ago.
And so now you are a multi-person operation running a seed company.
Yeah. But I thought I would gain free time, but that's so not true.
No, no. So you told us about how you found this piece of land that took you a while, and it was more than you could ever imagine it would be. And still, it's more than you can imagine. Do you want to tell us about what your site looks like and what your seed installations look like?
Yeah. So the site is, we're like, okay, so for the people who don't know the Kamouraska region, it's called Bassin Laurent. It's like east of Quebec City on the way to the ocean. So we're not really the ocean, it's the estuary. So it's salted water, there's whales, there's belugas, but we can see the other side of the river. I mean, it's Charlevoix area. We have among the most beautiful sunsets in the world, according to National Geographic. And so we can swim in salt water in the summer. There's tides. It's a tidal area, and so the flood. I mean, it's the fertile St. Lawrence Valley plain, which is very much wider in the Montreal area, in the south of the province. Here it gets very narrow, but it's still high quality soils that have been, I would say, less mistreated by big industrial farming. So I was on our land. It's a very high, very nice clay loam, very rich, naturally neutral pH, no rocks. I mean, just like chocolate cake batter type of soil. And but when I bought it, it was like there was a big like hard pan, and it was not in the best of conditions, but there was a lot to work with and to build on. So this very, very fertile ground in a road where all the family, I'm like, before me, the newest like guy on the road arrived in 1875.
Wow.
It's that type of place,
It's a traditional place.
Yeah, Camille Landry, his family arrived in 1875. He was the newcomer. So I became the newcomer, me and Philippe, my friend that I bought the farm with and started the business with, which is kind of important in the recipe because I would have never started that without him. And so we started this it's mainly dairy farming and like lamb, cows and lamb around us, and horse. There's like some like ranches, and and we have, the thing is, we have at the end of the land there's like a sand hill. So we have a very like rich clay fields, but then there's like because the ice with the when the ices drew back, they left like a little it's called an esker. So it's kind of it's not a mountain, it's not a real hill. We call that le coteau. It's just that at the end of my land I have this sandy loam, gritty sandy loam, which gives me different plant opportunities. And since we're the only ones with trees around, we gather all the snow from like kilometers away. So we're 3 kilometers from the St. Lawrence River, and to the northeast, I would say that when the northeast wind rises, there's nothing between Labrador and us. So you can imagine, it can lower 10 degrees in like 20 minutes.
Wow. Yeah. So some serious weather.
And serious winds, because like my windbreak grew, and it's a new life with the windbreak, with the natural windbreaks. I don't even have to put like artificial windbreaks anymore. But when I got here at first, when I see pictures, it's like a house in like a golf course, sort of like, and it was just like hay. There was only hay around because the farmers were not farming. Like, it wasn't the farming family; it was the neighbors who were just cutting hay. And before the old woman who was living here died, she was not like using the land. So this is that type of like really good farming heritage land in a very, very a very strong old family community in a very kind of a rich heritage place. It's a place that worships heritage. So my work is well seen in the community because it's really part of the identity of the place. We're like 350 years old, like the village. And and most people are like farmers or like working, like there's a lot, the tourism is has gained, and especially now that I can feel that this year there will be more Canadians going our way. The ones that don't go to Maine, they might go to New Brunswick or in Nova Scotia, and we're on the way. So that's kind of important in the equation because we have a shop. We're open to the public, and people. It's easy to put seed packs in a purse, or in a bag. People bring back seeds as it's a commodity. It's a touristic commodity as well. It's not people buy seeds as gifts. So we're now taking advantage of this position, but it's new because for 20 years I just didn't want to see anybody. Like just let me work. Mm-hmm. You want seeds? Let me work.
But now you have a larger team and you can deal with it. I want to just step in and say, like, I've been to your farm a few times, and it is one of the most beautiful farms. It's definitely in the top 5 beautiful farms that I've visited, because it really is a dynamic place where I'll see a bed of garlic, and then there'll be orac seedlings volunteering through. And you have angelica that, to me, looks like out of control, but I think that you're hurting it. And you have like maritime kale beds or sea kale beds, and so just this diversity of different crop, and it's a fairly small area compared to some. How big an acreage is your farm?
Okay, I'm going to go down to like very down to earth data. Like we own about 40 acres, but I rent most of it to my neighbor who raises land. But it allows me to have one garden at each end. So in the sandy part at the end and in the clay part near the house. So we're like 1 mile away or sort of, and there's like a forest in between. So it allows me to do like 2 varieties of carrots, 2 varieties of beets without possibilities of crossing. So that's marvelous, isn't it? For a seed grower. So in between there's like the area in between is very like a real typical hay field or grain field, so it's very too windy and the clay would be like too hard. So close to the house there's lots of trees and it's very, very bushy, and there's the river. I have the river on the land, so that's also an important thing because we have many sources of water for irrigation. We have like 2 wells and the river. So even when there's a very big drought, we never miss water. So down by close to the house, the gardens are actually very staged. Like for me, it's like theater, So yes, the plants interact because it's la Société des plantes. It's a society, and I don't want to live in a room and my neighbor is in another room and we don't talk, and so there's mingling. There's lots of interaction between plants. But that's a utopia, So the reality is that we do have rows, but we do want plants to have their own will and tell us what they want. So the two actually are interwoven together. It's like it's got to. I can't have just any gardener come here to garden without proper training. And you don't pull out a weed anytime because some plants that are self-sowed need to be harvested just when they're ready to make a soup with them, because I do workshops about that. So for me, like the weeding is like a free grocery. So that's really important in our system. But before I just get into that, like the real organization of the space, we don't have any tractors. I had a BCS that I've used because at the early days of the farm, I was selling a lot of vegetables. I was doing like fresh vegetable markets in the village and in Montreal because at that time there were not that many like heirloom vegetable growers. So I was like welcomed like a hero when I arrived. Like I don't need to do that anymore. Like there's lots of vegetable growers everywhere. So everything is about the seeds now. And I'm in we do a no-till farming. We've been no-tilling for like more than 10 years now. So they're permanent beds. We use a grelinet, a broad fork. We use broad forks and garden forks, and it's only hand tools, you know. Like the I actually use a lot of the dandelion to prepare, like because they're so easy to pull up in our like permanent beds. Like it's not even a problem. But we do a lot of handwork because there's um there's a lot of self-sowing plants among, so we can't just treat 100% one seed bed. So everything is done like that. So we have a big shed with 4 rooms: drying room, tool room, potting shed, and like cleaning and sorting and like different work, like an open space. And we have hot beds. We don't have a real greenhouse like most farms do. We have an open tunnel and hot beds. That's we grow like our tunnel, like our tomatoes, our peppers, transplants in hot beds, so we can open the lids and get them used to the real life of windy and scorching sun and everything. So no plastic pots in the hot beds. We just cut them like brownies and transplant them.
And you mean because you're growing in the ground? You're growing in the ground, and then you can pick them up and then transplant them. Is that what you mean?
The hot beds are overground in cedar wood and with electric wire underneath, and there's grids of metal to. I used to use them for like carrot production for Christmas, so there was like mice protection in the bottom. So we have like the electric wire like a snake in the bottom, and we have like double layered like acrylic covers, let the light in. But as soon as I can, you know, if I put my tomatoes there 2 weeks after they've been sown, like early May, they will remain in there like all the month of May to until they get transplanted in June. So as soon as possible, we open the lids progressively and keep everything open. And so our transplants are very sturdy, and I mean they're not as big as if they were grown in a heated greenhouse, but they're like ready to go and without protection. So we have the open tunnel, which is very important. That used to be a migrating tunnel, not anymore. Now it's like stable, staying at its place. I dream of having another one and another one uh, because it's very useful. I can see now how much better seed crops I get, like for onion seeds and some crops when they're undercover. So I can talk about that a little after. We have a house, and in the house, there's an important part of the setup because there's a kitchen and a dining room and a vegetal art gallery, which is part of the touristic experience, and the granary. I mean the grain shop, which is where we clean the seeds and where we where we do all the seed work, and where the shop is, which is open to the public. So when people come to the shop, there's a glass window, they can see the seed storage. We share a root cellar with like 2, 3 different farms. Like it's like 4 villages away from my place. I wish I had one on my here to make like cabbages, like to have a lot of room to make like more biennials. So that's our setup. Like, so no more BCS. I gave it away. And when we really need for some new areas we want to work, I mean, we just and have somebody come with a tractor or something. So we don't have a barn. We don't have a. So the the seed shop is actually very important because that's where all the work is done. But we when I see like farms with like very like on your farm and on at Lecumen and other seed farms, there's like a half outdoor, half indoor place where you can like actually like do like the dirty work of like cleaning seeds. the backdraw with our setup is that it's being done on the second floor of the in our seed shop building, and so we actually live with a lot of dust, and I can't wait someday to have a new space to add to that. But it's kind of under control now because everything used to be in my kitchen and in my house for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to move out of those spaces and to have dedicated spaces.
I have a real house now. Yeah.
I'm happy for you, Patrice. If you're already a seed farmer, or even just thinking about harvesting seed from your plants for the first time, head over to seedgrowers.farm for my free seed grower resources. There is cross-pollination information, seed yield information, even a few seed spreadsheets. There's also a list of my favorite seed books and podcasts. While you're there, you can also sign up for my weekly newsletter to get seed grower tips and stories straight into your inbox. So head to seedgrowers.farm for my seed grower resources. Now, back to the show. Now let's talk about one of those crops that you have developed seed skills about over the years. The crop that I'd love to talk about, and I'm excited to talk about, is carrot growing, because we're like 5-6 hours from you, but we have not had good success growing carrots. And I would say we can't grow carrots in our climate, and yet you can do it. So I'd love to hear a bit about your carrots, and maybe also you could start off by telling a bit about how your climate affects growing seed and how it might be a little bit different from us, where we're even just 6 hours away.
Yeah. Well, basically our spring is like 3 weeks later than yours. And
can you give us some dates for the listeners who don't know about Montreal and the area springs?
Yeah. Actually, it's not so much that we have frost later than Montreal, but it remains very cool for a long time, and we have snow for longer. And so, but if I was in Montreal, I look at the weather in Montreal all the time, and I go to Montreal every month. I mean, I see a lot of Montreal gardeners who get stuck having planted their tomatoes too early, and it doesn't happen to us because we don't take chances. So yeah, but I still sow a lot of things in April because in early May, because I try to grow. I really like direct seeding a lot, and I like the crops that I can direct sow that will benefit from some cool temperatures. So like broad beans, or like my new favorite cicerchia, which is like an Italian leguminous, an Italian pulse that I really adore, and it's Mediterranean, but you can sow it even though it's close to frost in the night. So we do that, but our climate has a really beautiful autumn. It's really stunning, amazing, but there's a lot of dampness and there's a lot of like foggy times, like in September. So I really love biennial seed work because having splitted the work on 2 years, I mean, the seeds are harvested earlier on the second year, which is not true with parsley. It's a very long cycle biennial, but with carrots and onions and I try to shift some annuals to biennials, like lettuce. So I have like 4 varieties of lettuce under the snow right now. So the idea is to find the good timing to sow them so that they will withstand the winter better. Because when the snow melts, they have their own root. They haven't been transplanted, so they're stronger, and they will even though there's a lot of winter kill, the ones that survive give more seeds. And I have the impression that I'm building a very strong lineage.
I want to ask you questions about this lettuce. So when you say under the snow, you mean you're planting them in the ground?
Like late August.
And then how big are they before the winter?
We aim for the café au lait bowl,
okay,
not the espresso cup,
okay,
and not the soup bowl.
All right.
And I don't know where I heard that before.
I think it might be John Navazio who may have said that, talking about spinach.
With the cabbages and the kale, and it's very important. So, of course, if we had the means, we could do like trials.
I just want to make sure the listeners understand what's important. What you're saying here is that the plants are not babies, but they're not full adults. They're like teenagers and a little bit more resilient going into the
Yeah.
winter.
If I put myself into the brain of the plant, I mean, I don't have the feeling that I've lived my life, and that I've done it. So I want to come back to actually live my life. And I'm strong enough to go through I mean, because it's kind of hard to go through. Our winters are long,
Yeah.
and we don't have as much snow as before here. We're going to go back to carrots, but carrots don't spend the winter in the ground. They're
Hmm.
not, they can't.
So with the lettuces, when you say they're under the snow, like they're literally the snow starts falling and it falls on them and they overwinter that way?
Sometimes I don't put anything, and I've done that. It depends of the variety because we can't talk about lettuces. It's like,
That
like
was the
humans.
question I was getting to. Yeah.
We don't digest the same food the same way. So some varieties like rouge d'hiver romaine lettuce, it's I don't have to protect this girl anyway. It'll go through like oreille du diable. It will go through like the devil's ears. No problem. But if I'm like with the grosse blonde paresseuse, no way will go. Even with protection, it doesn't go through. It doesn't go through a winter. Some varieties never make it. The sugar loaf won't go through the winter without protection, but the radicchio de Rosso di Treviso will, no problem, without protection. So it's just that when the biennial are a way to play with our possibilities, to have seeds that are ripe before the dampness of the autumn sets in. And for me, that has been, I wish I had been into that earlier in my process, because I've lost a lot of crops because I've done all the work, but I had bad germ rates. For what reason? Because, and lettuce seeds that are subject to some like a damp related disease are so hard to clean. I mean, it's just a nightmare. It's all this work for like nothing, and so much work to clean by hand after. So when you harvest in dry weather, I mean, everything just flows.
I'm going to ask one more question about the lettuce, which is we can overwinter lettuce in tunnels, in cold frames, and maybe in greenhouses, but we can't really do it outdoors. And our snow cover is very uneven. And is part of your success because you have a lot of snow that usually lasts through the winter?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of snow anymore
Yeah.
for the past. So it's become so now. I bought this protecting snow cover from one of I forget the name of it. It looks like felt.
Hmm.
So we're using that, and I do have a lot. I do have some winter kills. There's
Hmm.
holes. I have to plug the holes the
Okay.
next year with another crop. And this year I'm trying out something new because my neighbor has lambs. I told you, and the price of lamb wool has went down. It's like really sad for them. Like it's not even worth the trouble trying to sell it. It's like it's worth nothing. So he gives me the wool. So I'm protecting some crops with the lamb wool right now, and we'll see. And then it decomposes and feeds the ground. So we'll see. So I'm using this on a Portuguese cabbage. La couve portuguese is the typical Portuguese cabbage that in Portugal you eat with the Christmas cod. It's with it looks like colored actually. It's a really beautiful colored with white veins, and I'm like crossing my fingers. It's under the snow right now. So these are like I would like to make a specialty of cold I mean of these like winter crops that can go through the winter. I really adore that concept. So it gives an early. People have to understand that the seed crop is earlier the next year, and the plants you don't have to like irrigate them so much, or like I don't even put like I tend to be kind of not too pampering with my plants, so I don't put a lot of I don't straighten them up so much. I do selection on the plants that hold themselves together by themselves. I don't trellis them, so some do break. I'm kind of a utopian. I'm like working on that. Sometimes I have to get down to the numbers and want more seeds because I have to pay for my employees. So sometimes we do in betweens, but I tend to be rough with the plants to have a really strong selection. In some cases, it's really playing for me. Some cases I don't see the result right now, but in some cases I can see the lineage evolve towards. But then it's hard to compare because it's always a different year and like the reality changes. But with the carrots, we just take them out of the ground. So first we sow them in July. We never sow them earlier. This is why I never really realized that some varieties do go to seed if you sow them in May and June. Like I was like selling seeds of this really stunning like red carrot like from India, but you can't sow it in May, June. It's customers who told me that they all went to seed. Oh, shame on me. I mean, we should try so many things. Like some varieties were bred in countries where they can't sow carrots early in the season because it's just too hot and dry. So like Portuguese carrots need to be sown past mid-August. So they go to seed if you sow them in June. So we never sow like our biennial roots before like July, or late June would be like the earliest. So because we don't want to have like too big root to deal with, and at most mid-August, never further than that. And so we do use like row cover. We cover them for the carrot root fly, because carrot root fly damage will like just you won't have any seeds. But we play, we have the network that tells us when the root fly is coming. So I just have time to thin my carrots and before I put the net on. So no problem. It's a good timing. So we harvest the carrots in late October. We do a very, very severe selection based on taste and looks. So, if I want to have 100 carrots, I need to have at least 500. Like I'm quite hard on the carrot selection. So it's kind of a wine tasting. So, oh, this one tastes a little like grass clippings, or this one tastes like. So we don't want too much of that sprucey resinous taste, because it's a strong gene, and it will turn to bitterness if there's too much of it. But I kind of like that there's a little bit of it. So it's kind of the beginning of the recipe of the carrot plate. So then we actually clip them all very, very nicely and put them in big styrofoam. We don't pile them up in like some sand or something horizontally. We keep them vertically in. We recuperate our growing media, like the leftover like OM6 Berger organic growing mix. So we use leftover, not too rich growing mix, and we put them very close to one another, but not touching each other. So we basically grow them as like transplants and put them in the root cellar for the winter. So when we put them out of the root cellar, they make roots.
Do you check on them much during the winter?
I'm going to go soon. I haven't been yet.
Okay.
Fingers crossed. Usually we have had a little bit of mold. We haven't had like mice yet in that cellar. It's going fine. But then I just bring them to the sun slowly in the spring, and I just deal with my turnips first, because turnips are very, very nervous. I just simply adore turnips. They're my favorite, but they're very, very quick to bolt. So we have to plant the turnips first, and then we deal with the carrots, and then with the beets, basically. But we have to make sure there's no wild carrots. We all know that. So what do? We go with my team. I mean, my team goes. Often I'm like stuck doing some management or like some shop work. But the gardeners go in the city road, 1 mile from my place, 1 kilometer from my place, and we deal with the wild carrot ourselves for the municipality. We go with our like weeders, and we do cut the wild carrots to the ground. My neighboring farms like are so clean. They tend their land in such a clean way. Like they actually mow the ditches. So there's no way carrot can come close to my farm because the neighbors are very, very proud of their cleanliness of their land. So we are aware of where the wild carrot is, and we deal with it. So that's the second thing is, if I had another high tunnel, I would grow my second year carrots in it, because it would be a perfectly dry environment, and I would probably have a much better quality. Although in some cases we are able to have like over 75% for me is good with carrots, close to 80 sometimes.
And that's germination rate, you mean?
Yeah, the germ rates. Yeah. So some varieties, and then it's like the lettuce. It depends on the variety. With the Cutican White and my Jaune du Doux, which are like my two main carrots, except from Nantes, I always have good germ rates. With the Dragon carrot, I don't know why. It just never happens. So, but it's very popular, and people don't complain. We just put double the amount of seeds, and we sell them at 64, over 60, but it's never, hardly ever over 70. I don't know why. We do the same work with the Purple Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
The
variety acts differently.
Yeah, yeah. So we've had really good comments on how our carrots perform. So I'm really proud of our carrot work. The cleaning is very long.
I'm going to ask a couple questions before the cleaning, just to put a little bit more numbers. When you're planting them out, what spacing? Are you doing one row per bed, multiple rows?
Three rows. You do 3 rows.
Yep.
So all my beds are like 4 feet wide. Mm-hmm. So we do 3 rows in diagonal pattern, a perfect diagonal pattern, because at the beginning I'm gonna hoe through.
Mm-hmm. How far between the carrots and the row?
30 centimeters, 1 foot.
Okay.
Yeah. 1 foot in every direction.
Perfect. Okay.
1 foot in every direction. And the first years I used to clip them like if they were like a fruit tree, to concentrate the energy in the main umbels. Oh, no, I don't touch them. I find that the more branches they have, the more florets they have, the more they hold themselves well together, being all entangled. And then the longer process is the harvesting, because you have to, it's kind of harvesting mushrooms. At first you don't see so much, and because you have to harvest them at the right, you don't want to let them too long when they're ripe, because they will grab some mushroom from fungus, from the air. So they need to turn brown, but not like black brown. I mean, you just bronze, a very clean bronze brown. So we do harvest we do many harvests. It's a many harvest crop, and we do privilege the biggest umbels. And I don't even deal with the smaller umbels, but I don't clip them away anymore, which I used to do. It's a waste of time. And then we number the harvest in paper bags, brown paper bags. And when we go through them, we always keep a little bit of seeds from each umbel for our seed stock, to make sure, because we spend so much energy to choose the good roots, that we want to have we want the seed stock to be representative of that diversity. Because the open pollinated carrots, I mean, they will, it's not like one taste. I mean, it's a rich, there's some richness there. So you want to keep the richness. So I always make sure. So the seed stock is kind of a lot more work to gather some seeds from each good umbel, before we actually. So we press them through a sieve by hand. And I used to be way more quicker there, but there's so many bits and pieces of stems that are very hard to deal with afterwards in the cleaning, that now we put more time into the pressing of the seeds through the sieve. so that we don't have so many bits of stems to deal with after. And it kind of pays back when
Yeah.
we clean. We clean with a clipper. I can't tell you by memory the number of the screens we use though, but we do keep track of everything in a drive. So for each crop, we do keep track of our trials and errors and what not to do, and for some crops.
That brings us to the end of the carrot journey. Are we ready? Or do you have anything else you want to add about the carrots, or shall we pivot into some wrap up questions?
I think that's fine. I mean, it's they do have something to drop because about the carrot, because it's about the carrot and about the seeds in general, because I see so many numbers in the social media and in catalogs and in books about the longevity of seeds, and it makes me mad all the time. Like even like really really real reliable companies, they give numbers like, no, that's not true. Like, parsnip seeds, everybody say it's only good for 2 years. It's not true in my, like, they're not even good the first year when they're too fresh. So they're at their best in the second and third year. Often I have the best germ rate in the third year. And then they're still good in the fourth year, but they're going down. So everybody repeats the 2 year thing. So carrots is the same thing. It's like wine, some seeds, some lots of seeds will keep, like, not forever, but they keep very long, and some are never good. So I've had like some seed lots that are close to 8 years and they're still above 80%.
Are you talking about carrots, or are you talking about just in general?
Carrots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't sell them anymore because I'm I mean, I'm not selling it. I'm just, I'm giving these seeds away actually. They're still good to give.
Yeah.
They might have, if we have vigor testing, maybe we would see a difference in the vigor. But good seed lasts. And I think if we had an open tunnel to keep more moisture away, we could have like better keeping carrot seed.
Thank you for that extra thought. I don't have a lot of experience with umbels, especially parsnips, so I can't comment on those. But I have found that when we grow onion seed, it'll often last 3 or 4 years, and it's something that I feel
the 2 year is not true.
No, I think sometimes seed companies that when you're buying it from a seed source, the seed might be 1 or 2 years old at that point, and then if
that's why.
So there's other pieces, but that's one of the advantages of growing your own seed.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, exactly. So that pivots me to what would you tell your younger seed growing self?
Oh, I would definitely I would like write or call Crystal Wallach from Gardens North and propose that I volunteer in her garden. I was too shy to do that. Shame on me. I mean, she's really a good friend of mine now.
People are often more friendly than you expect.
I know. And I remember when I met you and before you had your seed company and you were coming back from Oregon where you had done some seed work and woofing and some seed farm. You remember? That's true, right?
I think you might be mixing two stories together.
Mixing two stories together. But or I had woofers here who came from woofing on seed farms on the West Coast, which is the Mecca. I mean, Oregon is like the Mecca, and I just wish I did that. I mean, I would, if I had to start over, I would do it for sure.
Yeah, yes. Well, that's a great thing to tell people to reach out. So, what would you say to market growers, vegetables, herbs, flowers, to inspire them to start growing seeds?
Because of the wealth of having a seed lot a seed variety you've selected yourself. For some of the breeds that I work with, I would never want to go back to the seed stock I had when I first started. I mean, it evolved in such a nice way according to my taste and everything and my conditions that it would be a nightmare to go back to the first time I grew it, what I had in my plate. Like with beets, for instance, like the white beet, I don't remember where it was when I got it, and anyway, I wouldn't tell it publicly, but it was so fibrous. It was so full of like, when beets have fibers that get stuck in between your teeth. I just realized at some point that all the ones that were more cone shaped had that fiber. You don't have to taste them. I realized that all the ones that looked like doorknobs didn't have that fiber. So but it takes years to do that. So when you select for your taste, I mean, it's worth gold.
Yeah.
So that's a good enough reason, I think.
Is there something I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Yeah, I think I've talked enough. No, that's fine.
Well,
Maybe we could have opened a whole new subject of the seed packs because seeds are seeds. But for me, seed packs, we put so much love and effort in the growing of the seeds and the cleaning of the seeds, and all the seed work that for me it makes just sense. All the interaction with the client. So I've put a lot of energy in like making seed packs objects of desire, kind of like chocolate bars when you go to the grocery and you see the chocolate bars near the counter. So the seeds for me that is the link with my cultural artistic work as well. But I think it's an important part of the seed work as well because we do sell packs.
can you describe what your seed packs look like? Because they are stunning and they're not what people normally see as seed packs.
Well, first, it all started with like a change of typography for each product. I was trying to find like a lettering that, like for the black henbane, which is like a plant used by witches, like there was like a gothic lettering. So I used to change for 20 years. It was only black and white with letters. But now we do have some like more complex graphic work in color. Now that we have a color printing, we have our own printing machine, which is a luxury, and it gives us so much freedom. So all our like hundreds of varieties have their own seed design. So they're sometimes people will just take the seed pack. Oh, I'd need that pack. I have friends who bought like a pack and put it on the wall. So that makes me super happy. It becomes a symbol.
As opposed to pictures, it's like the silhouettes and it's the shapes of the plants.
Yeah, there's maybe what I want to so that you don't have to read everything. You see the color of the lettuce, you see the color of the tomato right away. So that happens with a color photo as well. But we go to a more basic graphic to make like some things evident about the plant. Like if it's stingy, if it's a if it's a teasel, I mean the lettering or the picture must make you feel the sting.
When you made that transition to those new packs, I was blown away how beautiful they were. And
But thank you. But that's still just more work as well. I guess you can guess that it's not like
it doesn't
quick
happen
process.
on its own.
Yeah. But some people have kids, have seed packs.
How can people find out more about what you're doing?
Well, we have a website, lasocietedesplantes.com. We're like this week, it was supposed to be yesterday. We're going to have a button added on the website, English, French. So you will be able to switch. It's like the new thing this year. And we have a newsletter in French. We have an Instagram account and a Facebook account, obviously. So, and we're open to the public, which is another way of knowing if ever somebody's on their way to the East Coast. We're just like 5 minutes off the Highway 20. The directions are on the website. We had just this autumn, we were in an article in the Furrow for the people who have like the Furrow, the John Deere magazine. So there was an article on us in the Furrow. So
people just start appearing that you wouldn't have expected.
Well, I was amazed at the quality of this article. Truly, I mean, I really liked the journalist when he came and he took beautiful pictures, and I really love what he wrote about the farm. It was great. We did the interview in between two of my workshops because I have I make food for the people. I make seed workshops I show people all to do from seed to plate. It's from seed to plate workshop. So it's a 3-hour workshop. And in between the two, he came for an interview. So it was kind of
a busy day.
It was a busy day, but I really like the article in the Furrow. So yeah, it was in October or something. I forget the name. Seedsman or something has seed in it.
Well, thank you, Patrice, for this great conversation.
Thank you for inviting me.
I wish you a great continuation of your seed season, and I am sure I'll be seeing you at City Saturdays and Sundays sooner than later.
Yeah, very soon. Thank you, Dan.
It's a pleasure.
Have a nice day.
And that's episode 26 of the Seed Farmer Podcast. Thank you, Patrice, for being on the podcast. You can find links to La Société des Plantes in the show notes. One thing we didn't mention in our conversation was that Patrice was featured in the 2014 documentary called The Sower. I've included a link to the movie trailer in the notes. The trailer gives a fun snapshot of life at La Société des Plantes. I really encourage you to watch it. Now, here are a few of my own personal seed updates. At Tournesol, we just planted our warm-loving seed crops like tomatoes, peppers, beans, and corn. We've also begun to trellis our biennial winter radishes and have been keeping on top of weeding. All in all, things look good at this time of the year, despite all the rain that we've had and such cloudy weather. And so what a cold May it's been, too. So, in addition, seed orders have just slowed down in the last week or two, and we're starting to do an inventory of all the packs on the pole wall and the seeds in the bulk room. Now is the time that we're starting to get ready for the fall. And I've also been figuring out what to do about the podcast, which you're listening to right now. As I mentioned in the intro, you can now financially support the podcast by going to spreadsheet.farm/support-podcast or following the link in the show notes. Other ways to help support the podcast is to leave a 5-star review, and you can share your favorite episodes with your friends. This is how the podcast grows, is when folks talk about it. A huge thanks to Société Dalton for the theme music. You can hear more of their music at sophiacedalton.com. And thank you to Molly Brisebois for editing this episode. And thank you so much for joining me in these conversations with seed farmers. You can find more seed growing resources on my blog at seedgrowers.farm. While you're there, you can subscribe to my newsletter full of seed growing, crop planning, and farm spreadsheets. You can also find out where to order a copy of my book, The Seed Farmer, a complete guide to growing, using, and selling your own seed. If you haven't already subscribed to this podcast, now's the time. You wouldn't want to miss the next episode. Until then, happy farming.